Okay, next let's talk about your hose reel. We really have three types of hose reel. We have an H model that has the hand crank, which we showed you earlier. We have an E model that has a push button down here that winds it up quickly at one speed. And then we have this one, which is an ES model, which is electric reel for the E, and S means speed control, adjustable speed. We'll come back to that because right now it all starts with the lock-unlock feature. Whether you've got a hand crank or you got an electric powered reel, if you want that reel to move, you've got to unlock it. So we pull this pin back and set it. Now the reel has freedom to move. Now, why would you want to lock it? Well, a lot of guys like to lock it when they're driving down the road, but mainly if you're using your wireless remote control to start and stop the jetting, or if you're indoors with like a foot pedal or a ball valve control, hand trigger, whatever it might be, every time you go jetting on, jetting off, if you don't have this reel locked, your reel is probably going to walk back and forth, jetting on, jetting off, jetting on, jetting off, or foot pedal on, foot pedal off. And when you come back out, you'll often find this hose kind of balled up here. So if we lock the reel, it solves that problem. Now we go jetting on, jetting off, the reel will just wiggle a little bit and we won't have our hose balling up and becoming a mess. Okay, for those of you that have a motorized hose reel on your brute jetter, let's talk about controlling that. This is the ES model, so it is electric rewind hose reel with speed control. If you have this particular model, you can choose whether to have the hose unwind when you push the button, or more typically wind up when you push the button. So as I pull some hose out, when I push the button, it simply winds up, okay? And on your wireless remote control, the button here just replaces this button. So when I push the reel button, it's just like I push this button here. If it's on unwind, when I push the button on the remote, it's going to unwind, okay? So you always want to set this, if you're going to wind remotely, set it for the position you want it. You also, of course, can adjust the speed, as I said. So if I turn it all the way to slow, it actually does nothing until I give it a little bit of speed, and then I can adjust the speed there. Pretty straightforward. Now, for those of you who have an E model, which does not have speed control, and that is the most common, you won't have these two controls. You'll simply have a push button, and it's going to wind up. It will not have an unwind feature, and it's pretty easy to pull the hose off and manually unwind it. So that's why that's pretty popular. Typically, this button will be down here on the reel frame. You'll just push the button, and you get a fast wind up. And if you're wondering what's the reason for one or the other, if you typically just jet away from the jetter and you just want to wind it up quickly when you're done, that's why a lot of guys just get the single speed E model. But if there's ever a time you want to rewind the hose while you're jetting, you want to be able to speed control, because the plan with jetting is often, especially going like manhole to manhole or between catch basins, or even into a clean out, what I call direct jetting, where your jetter is right there up near the entry point. You want to go out quickly with your hose and rewind slowly so it can scour and clean. That's the reason primarily for speed control. Now lastly, with the hose reel, this unit also has the upgrade of a 4-roller hose guide. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rollers, and this is really for hose containment. It also pivots outward, which is nice for most typically coming out of a van. Say my van is parked curbside, but I need to bring my hose that way. Well, I can bring this out, which typically gets it outside of the door. And then when I take my hose and pull it, now I've got a guide to pull against, right? And then when I come back, when I'm done, I can just push it back up and out of the way. Now you might have a pivoting guide, which is on all of our trailers. Every once in a while, a customer will order a brute and want a pivoting hose guide. So that will be just down here. You won't have the 4-roller, but you're able to pivot back and forth. And again, that's nice for when, like I just talked about, direct jetting, where you're rewinding the hose while you're jetting. You can guide the hose onto your hose reel evenly. But otherwise, you're typically doing that with your gloved hand as you're winding up the reel. You're just guiding it along to fill your hose reel properly.